Good evening. Hello. This is an article from The Guardian from at least 3 months ago. Alaska. The current outbreak, which started in 2021, is making rounds in Arctic and Arctic creatures, such as polar bears and penguins. Polar bears in Alaska and penguins in Antarctica. Polar bear has been killed by bird flu as the highly contagious H5N1 virus spreads into the most remote parts of the planet. The death was confirmed in December by the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. This is the first polar bear case reported for anywhere. Very important. This is the very first polar bear case, not just polar bear case, but fatality related to H5N1. It was found near Quaigvik, one of the northern communities in Alaska. It was likely the bear was scavenging on the carcasses of infected birds. I mean, polar bears will eat everything. They're machines. They'll eat polar bear cubs. Absolutely ferocious appetites. And they hunt almost into complete darkness. It is possible that of course, there could have been other polar bear deaths related to H5N1 that went undetected or undiagnosed. Estimated to have killed millions of wild birds since 2021. Black bears and brown bears, eagles, foxes, kittiwakes. It's been in Antarctica and now it's in the high Arctic and mammals. H5N1 was detected in Antarctica among the brown skuas, and these are the birds that primarily hunt penguin chicks and eggs. So it's possible that eating penguin chicks and eggs, they could have got infected, as the penguins have tested positive before, but I'm getting ahead of it. This is Scientists have warned that the highly contagious virus could bring one of the largest ecological disasters of modern times if it reaches the remote penguin populations. As we continue. Bird flu wipes out over 95% of southern elephant seal pups in catastrophic mass death. Over 17,000 southern elephant seal pups, accounting for 95% of the pups born last year, have died from a highly virulent strain of H5N1. Now, it's you have to look at the animal and its biology. When these creatures sexually mature, to be able to procreate. Elephant seals are a few years. So this could be a dramatic gap in breeding seasons success. As these pups are usually born from September to November and stay with their mother for around 3 weeks. So 95% of those that dispersed, it just seems like such an early age to disperse too, but that's a hardy creature. We found that 96% of pups in sample areas have died, and we know that in 2022 about 18,000 were born, so virtually all production was lost. This is catastrophic. Absolutely catastrophic. And this is just what we can see on land. we're not seeing mass deaths that are going on under the water, because it's a percentage of what we're seeing. Let's say 10%. If we're seeing 10% of this on land, the other 9% we're seeing in the water. We're not seeing that. So it's very, very upsetting. The researchers don't yet know how adult elephant seal populations have been impacted by the virus, but the paper recorded 46 adult deaths in a high-density beach where a single death during a typical year would be rare. Yeah, the head tremor thing is something I've seen in birds before with bird flu. Head tremor is really sad to watch an animal suffer from this. The researchers are now considering that transmissions are occurring between mammals. Scientists had previously assumed that mammals were being infected from contact with birds through fecal matter or their dead carcasses. Pups mainly nurse from their mothers and therefore would be non-consuming infected birds. Pups being infected by his mother's milk. Maybe it's mammals' lactation that is transmitting the virus between pups from mother. We continue. This is the bird flu virus confirmed in Idaho dairy herd, human case linked to outbreak in Texas. The outbreak of highly pathogenic bird flu among the nation's dairy cows is creeping closer to Utah as a herd in southern Idaho was confirmed last week to have the virus. The identification of the virus in Idaho marks the second state bordering Utah known to have the virus, which causes dairy cows to suddenly be less productive and produce thick, syrupy milk. So it's not just that the cows are being tested routinely, they're actually producing some kind of mucus. Strange. The requirements were initially set to last 30 days and applied only to lactating dairy cows from affected states, which now include Texas, Kansas, New Mexico, Idaho, and Michigan. So if it's reported in Idaho, it's reported in Kansas, Texas, it's going to be reported in Idaho. It's just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time. It's going to be, instead of studied, it's going to be blocked, and it's not going to go well for cows, at least. Cows, cattle, penguins, elephant seals, polar bears. It's not affecting consumer prices, and is symptomatic cattle to date is too limited to have a major impact on supply. Yeah, but it's not slowing down, so it's not impacting yet. That's all I can say. What it can be doing eventually is shutting down dairy. Just like in the beginning, when all the dairy farmers were letting out all their milk instead of, anything else, and just letting it go on the ground because they couldn't sell it due to restrictions. I don't remember what the hell that even was about. Why did they let all that milk go? But this is different. I mean, if this is just raw milk, then raw milk can be contaminated. But It's a thick, syrupy milk. Very odd. So they don't know how long this is going to last for the cattle either. It's not like, okay, is this going to be a better day for the cattle? Is it going to produce dairy that actually can be processed? Scale isn't issued of milk production losses yet, but numbers will get up there as they are. They think that it's the lactating cattle or it's the lactation machines, the suction cups on the udders. Either way, it's being transferred at a highly fast rate between cattle and cows in this country. Scientists investigate thousands of dead Antarctic penguins for bird flu 2 days ago. Has bird flu already killed hundreds, if not thousands, of penguins in Antarctica? This is a really big deal because largely the Arctic animals and the Antarctic animals have been largely spared up until this outbreak over 2 years ago of H5N1 that has not been slowing down. Been tens of thousands of birds for a period of time. Anytime I were to look at the recent news when it comes to wildlife, it'd be thousands of birds found dead. Migratory birds are flocking. They're losing their flocks. It's just like passenger pigeons. They used to fly in the flocks of billions and now are extinct. Why are birds getting sick? Be something to do with poison in the air, poison in the drinking fountain, poison in the grass and the stems and the branches they use for nesting. They inadvertently use grass and sticks, rocks, anything from a garden, from somebody's lawn that's contaminated by poison. Which isn't news, that's what people do. They spray everything down with poison to, because they know better. That isn't nearly making as many animals sick as this, apparently. That's what researchers are seeking to find out after a scientific expedition last month found at least 532 dead Adelie penguins, with thousands more thought to have died. Of course, it's how many you're seeing. 1,000 dead dolphins wash up in the Black Sea. There's probably 20,000 you're not seeing that die in the water and deep. Scientists are confirming specifically that the often fatal H5N1 influenza could decimate threatened species of penguins and other animals on the remote southern continent. So not only is Antarctica thawing, not only is Antarctica losing its sea ice extent, it's also the first time that this virus has been detected in Antarctica. And there's a lot of stations for human beings, but I would largely be avoiding humans. Because polar bears is a very unusual death of H5N1. But bears are known to get it. But animals in the Arctic, in the Antarctic, no. But birds get sick all the time. They build their nest out of poison materials. People poison willingly, knowingly, in front of their own house, with molecules of poison that can last up to 500 million years. So birds get sick real fast, and should be an indicator species, which this is. Penguins dying in the thousands from H5N1 from in numbers that we just haven't seen these birds perish. The disease has spread more aggressively in wildlife than ever before since arriving in South America in 2022 and rapidly made its way to Antarctica, where the first case of H5N1 was confirmed in February. But penguins don't get sick by poison materials that we know of. What are penguins? Is it just in the air? Is it just in the water? Are there other birds that are migratory that are spreading the sickness? Because with a brown skua testing positive for H5N1, these birds are always around, especially Adelie penguins. So it's not too far off that migratory birds, the skuas from the Falkland Islands, came south and spread the disease further, or it spread just by man, just by doing research, by traveling, by just breeding, causing a disease to spread around the world. Like, what's the common factor between all these animals where they are? And us. Always spread disease without really understanding it for millennia. Now we see this going full circle from across the planet, affecting all sorts of animals, especially marine animals like elephant seals. Elephant seals don't start breeding until they're 5 or 6 years old. So by the time 2, 3, 4 years, with 95% of their pups population being wiped out from H5N1, there's going to be a gap. There's going to be a gap of youth in elephant seal population. This happened quick, after 2 or 3 years, but also you have the biological parents that are constantly experiencing loss that has an effect on them as well. They don't just keep having pups until it works. You know, they feel these too. Reuters at Dewar told Reuters Dewar is Megan Dewar, a wildlife biologist with Federation University who participated in the last repetition. Dewar told Reuters that the dead Adelie penguins were found frozen solid in the sub-zero temperatures and covered in snow on Huronia Island. We're going to see emperor penguins go extinct, that's for sure. With the sea ice extent being lost to the point that is pushing back penguins further and further from where they would need to go to get food and travel longer, swim longer, instead of sliding on their bellies. They're having to swim for longer periods of time, which is dangerous and not as productive. Because instead of taking 3 weeks, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, how can they sustain this? It's unsustainable. So we see the extent of the sea ice loss around Antarctica, and all that extends also until animals like penguins that rely on sea ice to be able to use for shelter, be able to have an area that, because they don't have chicks just on the ground and sit them like a bird. They would pretty much live on top of their feet a period of time. About 20 million pairs of penguins breed in Antarctica each year, according to the British Antarctic Survey. Those include emperor penguins, which scientists fear will be nearly extinct by the end of the century as sea ice dwindles due to climate change. Melting sea ice in 2022 led thousands of emperor penguin chicks to drown. Now bird flu. This is from the New York Times here. What to know about the bird flu outbreak and dairy cows. This is precisely what I was looking for. The infections, which include one associated human case, add another worrying wrinkle to a global outbreak that has devastated bird and marine mammal populations. An unusual bird flu outbreak in dairy cows has now affected at least 13 herds in 6 states, according to federal and state officials. Let's say which states? At least one person in Texas has been diagnosed with bird flu after having contact with dairy cows presumed to be infected. So that's evidence of cow to man? Human? That's alarming. Okay. Can we eat beef and drink milk, bovine milk still? Let's see. Okay, so the patient in Texas is recovering. The virus has been identified as the same version of H5N1, so it's not just in Texas, it's in multiple states. And there's only been one patient that's been shown to have contracted the same disease from a cattle, but that's from touching, that's from being around the cattle, or is it from milking the cattle? How did the calves fare? Like in the other examples of the milk being contaminated. The risk to the general public remains low, because I remember reading this earlier, is non-hygiene. I'll probably say it here. Okay, what is bird flu? 1997, Hong Kong. First identified 1996 in geese in China. 2020, a new highly pathogenic form of H5N1 emerged in Europe and spread quickly around the world. Cows were not thought to be a species at high risk. The fact that they are susceptible to the virus can replicate and can make them sick, that is something I wouldn't have predicted. This year, reports of sick cows began to emerge in Texas and New Mexico, and dead birds were also found on some of these farms, and laboratory testing confirmed that some cows were infected with bird flu. In Texas, 3 symptomatic cats also tested positive for the virus. Cats are known to be susceptible. Not entirely clear how the virus found its way into cattle, but one likely route. several experts said is that infected wild birds which shed the virus in their feces, saliva, and other secretions contaminated the cow's food or water. Yeah. How have cows been affected, sorry. Saying and reading infected too much. Although the virus is often fatal in birds, it appears to be causing relatively mild illness in cows, as they said that it makes the cows produce a very thick, syrupy-like milk instead. That can't be worked. It's not killing the cows, and they seem to be recovering. Primarily affecting older cows. Symptoms in the cows include loss of appetite, a low-grade fever, and a significant drop in milk production. The milk that the cows do produce is often thick and discolored. The milk has also been found in unpasteurized milk samples collected from sick cows. So far, the virus has been found only in dairy cows and not in beef cattle. Yeah, there's... The affected dairy in Michigan had recently imported cows from an infected herd in Texas. When the cows were transported, the animals were not displaying any symptoms. The farm in Idaho had also recently imported cows from an affected state, Idaho officials said. How is it spreading? That is the key and still unanswered question. So, in the last 2 years, 3 years, we've seen H5N1 make its way around the planet and infect some of the hardier animals that we've known, like elephant seals that are not known to get H5 or just bird flu. Cow transmission. There's only second case of H5N1 bird flu in people in the United States. The first was in 2022. They're working directly with sick dairy cows. Yeah, so how will officials know if bird flu adapts to spread between people? Analyzing the genetic sequence of the virus from infected birds, crows, and people can reveal whether H5N1 has acquired mutations that help it spread among people. Is it safe to consume dairy products? Commercially processed milk remains safe to drink. Dairies are required to keep milk from sick animals out of the human food supply, and the milk sold across state lines must be pasteurized, a process in which the milk is heated to kill potential pathogens. That's good. So pasteurized milk and dairy products still safe to consume, because I bet they would be testing already in food if that were the case. The risk of being infected by the virus by consuming unpasteurized or raw dairy products is unknown, the FDA said. Raw milk is known to pose a variety of potential disease risks beyond avian influenza. Oh, he's getting comfortable. Getting comfortable. Alright, I think that's all I have for tonight for this topic. I thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Keeps me motivated to continuing putting out content related to this great Earth. Thank you. Please have a good weekend.